Hello, Chill Computer Guy. Today we're here in Bitwig Studio 2. We have a quick tip for creating variation through velocity and also through using the quantizing options. Now, we're going to go ahead and listen to this beat straight. No shuffle, no nothing, just a straight beat here. Let's listen to this. Not bad, but it can use some work. It's very, very mechanical sounding, very quantized. So something that I highly recommend doing is if you bring up your velocity graph here, you can see that everything's the exact same velocity. Now that's going to be an issue as far as making the beat sound very robotic. So first off, let's change up the velocity of the hi-hats. Now the hi-hats are every 16th note, so now to select all the notes in a MIDI grid, you just have to click on that lane. So let's go ahead and click on the hats lane. You can see it selects all the hi-hats. And if you go over here to the velocity, you'll see there's a little arrow here. Now this arrow, what this is going to do is it's going to open up a histogram basically. And this represents an average value for all the notes selected. So you can see that the mean is the medium level. In other words, that's where everything's at. So if you want to make things quieter, just bring that down. Up and down makes it quieter or louder. And then you have the spread. Now the spread has to do with the chaos. So if I bring the spread up, nothing's going to happen because the chaos has not been set. Now the chaos is the variation from one note to another. Let's go ahead and bring that up, and you'll see that the notes start to kind of scatter a little bit, start to, there's some it creates some variation, if you will. Now the spread is going to be the amount of variation. So if I bring that back, it's less variation, and I can bring that all the way up to 200, which is just complete crazy variation. So we just got to find kind of a comfortable amount. And what's great about this is you can actually play your loop as you're adjusting this. So you can see if I go ahead and solo just the hi-hats and go back, you can actually hear that pretty clearly. That's a little too much. But that has helped a little bit as far as creating variation and getting a less robotic sound. Okay, so that's tip one. Now tip two is the shuffle. So let's go ahead and go back to the full beat here. Now the second tip is just to simply apply a shuffle. So if you click on the shuffle here, now that's the second tip, is to apply. Now this is a global shuffle here. And so how to adjust this is over here under the play menu. Under the global shuffle, you can control the amount of shuffle. This is set to 50%. You can go, I recommend maybe something like more like 57, 56, somewhere in there. But that's going to, like I say, globally affect all the MIDI loops in your project. If you want to affect just individual notes or individual MIDI clips, what you can do is use a quantize function, and that's the third way to kind of change it up. Now to do that, you can hit Control A, select all your notes here, and then right click, and you'll see there's two quantize. Now the quantize without the box, the Q, is just going to quantize everything to the 16th note because that's what's set for your MIDI grid. The quantize with the box around it, the Alt Q, that's going to actually open up a dialog box and is going to give you a lot of options. Now this will normally be on editor, which again, the shuffle and the humanize are relative to whatever you have your MIDI grid set to, and then you can go custom and then adjust that. The bigger the grid is, the more dramatic it's going to be, I recommend a 16th note. If you go with an eighth or a quarter note, it's going to really shift the hell out of your MIDI notes. But this is the way that you can set individual shuffle with individual notes, individual clips. But the other option here is to humanize. Now, humanize is a very useful technique. I always recommend pumping this up to like 16, 17, how about 18% sounds good. And then hitting OK. And then what that will do is it will just kind of slightly nudge your notes off the MIDI grid. If you zoom way in here, you can see that things are a little bit off the MIDI grid. And that's a good thing, because if a human being played this beat on a drum set, it wouldn't be quantized. It would have a more human feel to it. So now let's listen to this beat again. What we've done is we've done a couple of things. We've caused some variation in the velocity of the hi-hat. We have applied a global shuffle. And now what we've done is we've added 18% of a humanize, quantize type humanize, which basically throws your stuff just generally off the grid, makes it a more human feel. Let's go ahead and listen to this loop now. What I recommend is just messing with these values, but get your stuff off the MIDI grid, get your velocity, get some variation in your velocity, and get your stuff off the MIDI grid. The sooner the better, because you'll start to get a feel, and then once you get a feel, then you can really start to apply melody, some chord progressions, maybe even some vox, some vocal, whatever. Start adding in instruments based on kind of a relative attitude or a relative groove of the song. You know, you don't want to be quantized, you don't want to sound mechanical. Yeah, too mechanical's bad. Remember, music is expression, it's not binary, so important to get your stuff off the MIDI grid. These bass tracks, obviously, I need to work on those a little bit more. But in the meantime, I think this drum loop's sounding pretty darn good. Anyway, that's the quick tip for today. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Chill Computer Guy here. We'll see you guys again. Thanks.